Sports for Real with Coach Hall. Let me set the scenario for you. You got a runner on second base. There's one out. The batter grounds the ball to the pitcher, who throws it to first base for the second out. The runner on second advances to third base. Still in pretty good shape, right? Wrong. How about this? Your runner, thinking there's 3 outs, he steps off the bag. He runs toward the dugout. The third base coach grabs and says, "Man, it's only 2 outs. Get back on the base." He goes back to the base. The umpire sees it. He calls him out, even though he arrived at the base safely. Why'd you call him out, Mr. Umpire? Well, if a runner is helped or touched at all by a base coach, the runner becomes automatically out. So that effectively ended a potential 3-run inning because you end up scoring a couple runs later on. Well, that's the situation that you have or can find yourself in if you have a team that's playing a varsity level in high school but have little league skills. I've seen a lot of things in little league baseball, but I don't think I ever seen a situation where a player thought it was 3 outs, tried to run to the dugout, and the coach redirected him. Well, that's all created because what started happening about 25 years ago is travel ball. Travel ball replaced the city leagues because it was claimed that the city, most cities didn't have funding to put into local programs. So where the players could play for free down at the city league, that was no longer available. So if you wanted to continue to play, then you had to go join a travel team. Now, some also said that the reason for that was try to take some of the racial element out of Little League baseball because baseball still technically at the time was America's #1 sport. And some people thought that this #1 sport should be played by a certain kind of people. Well, there may be some truth to that, but I do know one thing, and I came up through the city leagues. If we had to come out of our pocket, we weren't going to play. Why? Not because it couldn't be afforded, but it wasn't a priority. And if your priorities lie elsewhere, and it comes down to what you were prioritizing, or having your kid play Little League baseball where he has to go pay, buy his uniform, where you got to buy your gloves and cleats and everything else, and pay to go out of town to play, 9 times out of 10 you're not going to play. And that's the situation kids nowadays whose family don't have that extra money to get them in the sport at a young age. This is what they're faced with. And then they get to the high school where they find out that baseball is free. If you can make the team, hey, let's go out for the team. However, just like most other sports, the travel ball players, they all know each other. So they start ganging it up and say, hey man, let's go play here, or let's go play there. And that leaves the teams that don't have that connection on the outside. And what ended up happening is you feel a varsity team that's playing on a lower level, a much lower level in a lot of cases. And if you don't have a pitcher, it's going to get ugly real quick. And that's the state I kind of find myself in. But I do have a couple bright lights, and I also have the building situation of time. I don't lose a whole lot this year, and if I can bring everybody else back, besides the couple of seniors that I do have, I can bring everybody else back and develop a couple pitchers this year, let them take their lumps, then I should have a pretty good team. And if I get a pretty good team after that, then it should continue on as long as you stick with the program. But Walk Off Charities, this is a charity group in Jacksonville who must have recognized the same sort of thing that I've seen. They have these programs where they provide uniforms and equipment, and they are creating these leagues. They're building fields and modernizing everything and trying to introduce baseball back into the inner cities. They have this new park out there, Bragan Field, which is off Bay Meadows Road East. There's a difference between Bay Meadows and Bay Meadows East. This is far east, way on the other side, out there by JTB. where they have these new fields that they built. They got the field turf, and you don't have to worry about cutting the grass or none of that, because the field is there's no maintenance to it. Just like what you have with these turf fields they put in high schools everywhere. It's a great situation. Only thing that I have a problem with, as far as walk-off charity, they say they put fields in underserved areas. Well, is it underserved when the people that you put the location in, like Bay Meadows East, that's a rich area out there? What's underserved about that? That's the only problem I got with walk-off charities. But I don't know what the city of Jacksonville and all these hundreds of parks and baseball fields that they have around, I don't know how that works and how much it would cost. But if you brought something like walk-off charities and spread it around and let it grow more grassroots and reduce the cost some kind of way, if nothing else, find some way to reduce the cost and have the city pick most of it up, then you will see baseball come back. But as long as you can have these travel teams that's charging this exorbitant amount of money, plus travel costs to be a part of that team, numbers in the inner city is always going to be down for baseball. But I am excited about what I see with walk-off charities, but I just wish they had something like that a couple years ago for the players that I have now. They should be farther along than what they are, but I have no problem with it. And basically the point of coaching is to get your athletes from one place to a higher place, no matter what they are. Anybody can take a bunch of all-stars and go win a championship. Who cares about that? But if I take a team that can't get the ball across the plate and making Mickey Mouse errors and getting blown out over silly stuff, and you start making those errors and all of a sudden that becomes a team, then you got something. And one example I can think of that, I talked to the coach over at Inglewood High School. He said they got a team that has incrementally gotten better over the last 2-3 years, and now he's got a pretty good team. So I'm hoping to emulate that success, but at the same time, I like to see more programs like walk-off charities spring up so kids of all ages can get out there and play some ball and get their minds off some of the stuff that's going on in the streets, because right now they're too distracted by the wrong things, and there's nothing wrong with playing baseball or any other sport on a continual basis, and it will make things better for everybody. But hats off again to walk-off charities, but better yet, I'm going to get that team to realize the situations and be able to recognize when there's 2 or 3 outs, and you're going to see a difference with my team. So that's just my thoughts on the levels of baseball concerning travel ball. This is Sports for Real.